And I've told this story, but I'm going to tell it again. That Stella is, well, or was the name of my dog before she sadly passed away as well. And my fiance is called Estella. So the day that Estella came to my house to meet the family, she was obviously in love with the dog. She was like, "Oh, Stella's so cute, so cute." And we had made this joke of them having the same name a few times, but of course in a nice fun way. And then my dad was at one moment telling Stella off. And he was like, Stella, don't do that. Stella, stop. Stella, sit. Stella, paw. And of course, back then, my girlfriend was panicking. She was like, what do you mean? Why are you telling me to sit down? Why are you telling me to stop? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to British English Pod. How are you? How's life? What's new? What have you been up to recently? In my case, I haven't been up to much, really. Just same old, same old. I've been teaching my classes. I've been recording my videos and podcasts. I've been editing everything. I've been preparing different lesson plans. I've been in touch with many different people. I've been doing an exciting collaboration with someone else. So, I've been good, but nothing new, really. Nothing dramatic or exciting has happened in my life in the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So, for me, it's just a normal day, and I am recording this on a lovely sunny day, which it's nice because I was mentioning on previous podcasts that I was a little bit apprehensive and a little bit afraid of the fact that winter is around the corner. Winter is coming. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe I got ahead of myself. Maybe I thought that winter was coming faster than it actually was, because over the last week, the weather's been pretty lovely. It's been sunny. It hasn't been cloudy. It hasn't really rained a lot, so it's been quite dry. I haven't needed to put on a coat or anything like that. So the weather is still quite mild. It's not hot, but it's not cold either. It's just warm, So maybe this autumn and winter will be nice and good weather. Let's see. I hope so. But whereabouts in the world are you? What's new? Are you in Spain, Brazil, Argentina, France, Italy, China? Whereabouts in the world are you? Let me know in the comments. And what's the weather like? But more importantly, this week, as you will have noticed, the main topic is all related to animals. Yes, animals. And we all like animals, don't we? We all dream of having our own pet, and we all think about seeing exotic animals when we're traveling. It's part of the enjoyment of life, I suppose. So, do you have a pet? Or have you had pets in your life? Because, well, I have had pets, different pets, and I think I've told you the story a couple of times, but I'll tell you again later during this podcast. But I want to know about you. Let me know in the comments if you've got any animals. And the reason why we're speaking about this topic, animals, is as usual, because in the British English Immersion Club, this is what we have been speaking about. We've been learning lots of animal idioms, having a chat about animals, reading some conversations / dialogues related to animals and pets, and having fun, having a laugh, enjoying ourselves. And if you'd like to try my group classes, the British English Immersion Club. I'll leave a link in the description. Now, on to the topic. Let's get straight onto it. And to do that, I'm going to begin with a dialogue. So I hope you're ready to listen. And I'm going to try and put on a nice accent and make it sound interesting. So here, as you can see, I am now sharing my screen. You can see a conversation. And it's two people, two characters, Lucy and Ben, and they are old friends, catching up in a cafe. And they're going to speak mainly about animals for about 500 words. So I'm going to read it out. I want you to pay attention, and then we'll discuss it in a little bit more detail. Are you ready? Shall we kick off? Shall we get started? All right, let's do it. Let's do it. So Lucy is going to begin. So, Ben, how's life? Still surrounded by animals? Huh, pretty much. You know me. I grew up on a farm, so I can't imagine life without them. I've got 2 dogs, 3 cats, and, believe it or not, a parrot now. A parrot? That's brilliant. Does it actually talk? Oh, yes. Sometimes too much. He shouts, "Tea time," whenever he hears the kettle boiling. It's hilarious. That must surprise your guests. I've always loved animals too, but I've never had more than a dog. They're like family, aren't they? Definitely. Dogs are the most loyal creatures on Earth. Mine follow me everywhere, but cats are different, more independent, a bit mysterious. Yeah, cats are like the royalty of the animal world. They let you live with them, not the other way round. Exactly. By the way, did you hear about that animal shelter near town? They're overwhelmed. Too many abandoned pets. That's heartbreaking. People sometimes forget that having a pet is a huge responsibility. You can't just get bored and give it up. True. I think animals teach us empathy, you know? Kids who grow up with pets often become more caring adults. I agree. I read that even watching fish in an aquarium can lower stress. Imagine that. Tiny little goldfish helping humans relax. Well, not all animals are relaxing. I once volunteered at a wildlife center and had to feed an injured owl. It gave me the creeps at first, those big staring eyes, but then I got used to it. Wow, that's brave. I'm fascinated by wild animals, but only at a safe distance. Last year, I went on safari in Kenya. Seeing lions and elephants in their natural habitat was incredible. That sounds amazing. I'd love to do that. I hate zoos, though, unless they're genuinely protecting endangered species. Animals should be free. Same here. On safari, you realize just how powerful nature is. The lions didn't even care we were there. They were too busy napping under a tree. Classic cats. Even the king of the jungle loves a good nap. I guess humans aren't so different then. True. By the way, if you could be any animal for a day, what would you be? Maybe a bird. I'd love to fly freely, see everything from above. Good choice. I think I'd be a dolphin. Intelligent, social, and they live in the sea. Nice. Dolphins always look like they're smiling. Exactly. Animals have so much to teach us. Loyalty, freedom, patience. No wonder we use so many animal expressions in English. Like, curiosity killed the cat? Yeah. Or, the elephant in the room. Animals are everywhere in our language, which shows how important they are in our lives. Okay, that is the dialogue. That is the conversation. And I'm curious to find out. I imagine you noticed, but I was trying to put on a female American accent. Now, I'm not the best at putting on accents. Of course, these two roles, we had Lucy and Ben, so I wanted to add a bit of variety and make it sound like they were really having a conversation. I don't know if it went well or not, but let's see. But yeah, Lucy, I was making her sound a little bit more American, also a little bit more female, and Ben, I was just speaking like I normally speak. So if you notice the difference in my voice and the accent, that's already a good sign, because I think with language learning, if you're able to tell the difference and differentiate and distinguish between different countries' accents, or better yet, different regions' accents, then it's quite a good sign that your listening abilities are really top notch. They're really top notch, really high level. But hey, let's have a chat related to that dialogue. So, they started, well, by talking about growing up on a farm and having different animals. And I did grow up more or less in the countryside. So, for example, when I'm back home, there is a hedgehog which comes to visit us. This might sound a little bit crazy, but my mum buys cat food and she leaves it outside at night for the hedgehogs that come to visit us. You know, a hedgehog like Sonic the Hedgehog. Given that we live close to a woods, a little forest, we do sometimes come across hedgehogs in the garden or on the driveway or just wandering around at night, because I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think they are nocturnal. I think they sleep during the day and they come alive at night, just like owls as well. Owls are known for being nocturnal. But yeah, in my house, when I go and stay at home, if I've gone out for a drink with my friends and I get back at midnight, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, I might be startled. And I might be walking, scrolling up and down on my phone, and then, oh, God. And then I see it, a little hedgehog. And of course, hedgehogs, they have little spikes on their back, which is designed by nature to protect them from potential predators. Because maybe hedgehogs were a common prey for dogs, wolves, and so on. So that's a cool thing about growing up in the countryside, that you can see lots of cows, lots of sheep, lots of pigs, lots of different varieties and species of birds. So yeah, I suppose I'm privileged in that aspect, that I didn't grow up in a city centre where your exposure to wild animals is reduced. And well, they spoke about pets, and I have had pets in the past. I think I've had 4 or 5 cats. We got them as kittens as well, so we had them when they were babies. And the first one was called Marmalade because she was orange and she was beautiful, very loving, but I was a little baby back then, so I don't really remember much. And I think she passed away when I was 5 or 6. After that, we got 2 little kittens at the same time. They were black as well, which stereotypically, according to old-fashioned stories, are bad luck. So black cats supposedly are a sign of bad luck. And, well, the first one died after a year. So the cat got a little bit sick. We had to take her to the vet, to the veterinarian. And in the end, we needed to put her down. Nice phrasal verb. To put a dog down, put a cat down. put a horse down is to sacrifice it. So if your pet is sick for a long time and the vet tells you that they're going to suffer and they're not going to recover or get better, then they often recommend that, unfortunately, you have to put them down. You have to, well, kill them in the most humane way possible. So the first of these two cats, we had to put her down. And the second one, I think only months later, she must have gone outside through the cat flap, this little door that cats have to enter and, enter and leave the house. She must have gone for a little walk or to explore the woods or something similar. And we realized later that day that, again, unfortunately, she got ran over. So out of two little kittens that we bought at the same time, one of them got sick and we had to put her down. The other went for an adventure and never really came back. At least never came back alive because she was run over by a car, hit by a car. Bad luck, right? And then the fourth little kitten that we bought, because, by the way, I say bought because that's what we did. I think back in the 90s, there was less awareness in terms of adopting animals and giving them a better life, which now, if I got my own dog or cat, I would definitely try to adopt. But when I was growing up, we didn't. We always bought them from a kennels, which is a place where they take care of dogs or cats and breed them. So, yeah, we bought 3 different cats, and all of them died quite quickly. So, our look had to change at some point, and luckily it did, because we adopted Misty, and Misty was a really, really beautiful cat. Her fur was like grey with different patterns and different patches, a little bit of white as well. Really, really beautiful. A beautiful little kitten. But from an early age, from a young age, she wasn't very friendly. She was a bit standoffish. Like, she didn't want to meet other people or animals. She didn't want to sit on your lap and be stroked. So she was next level independent and quite mysterious as well, as they said in the dialogue. And sometimes my friends would come over to my house and they'd want to pick Misty up. They'd want to stroke her. And she would not like it. No, 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 no. She didn't respond well to that. She would feel like she was being attacked, maybe. So she developed a bit of a reputation for being a mean cat and a bit of an aggressive cat, quite a violent cat, because she'd always try and scratch. She's like, meow, meow. And she tried to scratch me, my parents, my sister, my friends, whenever we tried to pick her up and stroke her, really. Which wasn't ideal, I suppose, but we loved her in her own unique little way. Then I went to university, and I noticed a shift. I noticed a change. That then, when I'd come back from uni and stay at home in summer, over Easter, and Christmas, she started to be much more affectionate, much more loving. And she'd be purring a lot, like purr, purr, purr. And that was a sign that she wanted attention. She wanted us, finally, to stroke her. And, well, she developed and turned into an adorable, loving little cat who lived until the age of about 20. So, luckily, she survived and didn't get sick. We didn't need to put her down. And in the end, now I can look back on my life shared with Misty in a very, very positive way, in a fond way, because she was a bit complicated at the beginning, a bit of a strong personality, but in the end, she softened up and became a bit cuter and softer and was less aggressive in her elderly years. And perhaps, maybe, just maybe, this was because she had to get used to sharing the same space with Stella. Yes, Stella. So, when I was, I think, 14 or 13, I went on holiday with my family. We went to Mallorca, and I remember at that moment, I had become a little bit obsessed with getting a dog. I wanted a puppy. So I started looking up different breeds and thinking, okay, do I want a Labrador, a Golden Retriever, a German Shepherd, a Beagle? I was looking at all options. Poodles, pugs, a Yorkshire Terrier, all of them. I wasn't ruling out any options, but I always liked the idea of getting a family-friendly dog, and for that reason, I always thought that a Labrador or a Golden Retriever would be perfect. They're very docile, they're not very aggressive, they like to be surrounded by different people, they don't pose any problems to friends wanting to walk the dog or take care of the dog. So when we were on holiday, I just about convinced my parents to start seriously looking to buy or adopt a dog. And I was like, yes, come on, little victory for little Lewis. My persuasive techniques worked. Because I think I was maybe giving them the arguments that I would take care of the dog, I would feed the dog, I would take the dog out for a walk both in the morning and in the evening, and I would be held responsible for the dog because it was me. I was the one who really, really wanted to get a pet. Well, another pet, and in this case, a dog. So fast forward 6 months, give or take, we found the perfect little puppy. And when we went to pick up the puppy, of course, there was a litter of 8 different puppies. By the way, litter can mean rubbish, but it can also mean the number of baby animals that are born at the same time. So often, dogs, when they're pregnant and they have little puppies, they have a litter of 5, 6, 7, 8 different puppies, which is so cute. Imagine having a pregnant dog and seeing the dog give birth, and then you have these little tiny puppies that are like seconds old coming out, not even able to open their eyes or do anything. Oh, I want to see that. I want to be there. Because when we went to pick up Stella, I think a couple of the little puppies had already been like reserved, or they'd already been taken to somebody else's house. And I was just looking at this big golden retriever, and then all of these little puppies that were like running around, rolling on top of each other. They weren't even able to bark. So when they tried to bark, you just hear like, riff, 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 riff. So it was so cute. But the one that we had booked or pre-reserved to take home with us that day, the owners of the dogs, had already named her Stella because the mum was called Stella. And the little puppy already responded to Stella. So we thought, Why complicate matters? We'll just keep the name Stella. Fine by me. I've got no issues with it. So then we took Stella home, driving back an hour or 2 hours. She was so cute, so small, and she wasn't complaining either. She seemed to be relatively comfortable, even though, of course, we had taken her from her brothers, sisters, and mum, which, if you think about it like that, it's a little bit cruel, to be honest. But hey, we're not going to get into that just yet. But we took her home to meet Misty, my aggressive and violent cat. And at first, they didn't really get along. They wouldn't want to share the same space. They were never fighting, but Misty, my cat, would be very, very cautious and keep her distance, and she'd be thinking, what the hell? What's going on? I was the queen of this house. I used to be able to do whatever I wanted. Well, not anymore, because Stella joined, and of course, she was a little baby, so we were much more excited about being with Stella, and, key difference, Stella, being a dog, wanted the love and affection of the family. Not like Misty. But Stella was amazing, a great dog, a bit lazy. I think that is quite a common thing with golden retrievers. She was a bit lazy because sometimes I would take her for a walk and she wouldn't move. She'd be very stubborn. But she'd stay exactly where she was and wait until I lost patience and took her home. So in her later years, she got a little bit fat as a result because she was lazy. So be warned if anybody is thinking about ever getting a Labrador or Golden Retriever, because they can be a little bit lazy. But, I'm not perfect either, because I made the promise to my parents that I was going to look after Stella as much as possible, when in reality, it ended up being my dad mainly who took over the role of being in charge of Stella, feeding her, taking her out for walks, and I think they bonded and developed quite a good connection in the end. So, Dad, you're welcome. And I've told this story, but I'm going to tell it again. That Stella is, well, or was the name of my dog before she sadly passed away as well. And my fiancée is called Estella. So the day that Estella came to my house to meet the family, she was obviously in love with the dog. She was like, oh, Stella's so cute, so cute. And we had made this joke of them having the same name a few times, but of course in a nice fun way. And then my dad was at one moment telling Stella off. And he was like, Stella, don't do that. Stella, stop. Stella, sit. Stella, paw. And of course, back then, my girlfriend she was panicking. She was like, what do you mean? Why are you telling me to sit down? Why are you telling me to stop? Because Stella and Estella, they sound almost identical. You just add the to my fiance's name, Estella, and Stella, well, my previous dog's name. So that's a funny little story that I like to tell, and I'm sure you've heard me telling it before, because as I'm saying this, I remember that I've definitely told this story, and maybe quite recently. But hey, it is what it is, right? Now from there, let's move on, and I look forward to reading in the comments about your pets and if you had any pets and so on. But let me answer a few other questions. And here we've got a PowerPoint that I often use with my group classes, the British English Immersion Club. And number 1, we've already covered. So let's talk about number 2. Are there any animals you are afraid of? Yes, I'm afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of snakes. I'm afraid of cockroaches. Hey, I'm afraid of most things. As I've clarified, I am a chicken. I'm quite a coward. I'm not very brave. So yeah, I'm afraid of many different animals, but in particular, I think the number 1 animal that I'm afraid of is probably spiders. Even though they're small and they seem insignificant, I'm not a fan. If I see a spider and I don't know where the spider is, or I didn't know it was there before, I panic and I get a bit flustered and I need to kill it. I need to squash it because, yeah, I do not like spiders at all. I am scared of them, terrified of them, horrified of them, frightened of them. What about you? What animal are you afraid of? Now, number 3. If you could be any animal, what animal would you be? That's an interesting one. But I think from the dialogue earlier, what was his name? Ben made a very good point. Because he said he would like to be a dolphin. And thinking about it, I think that is a very good option. Because there is so much of the ocean that we don't know. So it'd be quite interesting to live in the ocean and be able to breathe underwater. And they say that dolphins are really, really intelligent. So they're really smart. So I guess they can be aware of lots of things that are happening. Dolphins are also quite sociable. They tend to live in groups. Fun fact. You say a school of dolphins. A school of dolphins. That is the collective noun, which is interesting. But yeah, dolphins, they're intelligent, they're beautiful, they seem fun, they enjoy things, and I've heard that they also enjoy making love. I don't know if it's true, but that's what they say. So, I would say that if I could be any animal, I would be a dolphin. Now let's skip to number 5. How do you feel about zoos? Well, there are 2 ways that I could answer this question. On the one hand, I kind of disagree with zoos because I believe that animals should be kept in their natural habitat and animals should be free to do what they want. You could make the argument about pets also not existing because at the end of the day, we are holding an animal in captivity. Not saying I 100% agree, but that's one way of looking at it. And there are lots of examples of zoos that can be quite cruel. You can keep a big, beautiful lion or tiger inside a zone, an area of 100 square meters, which isn't enough for the animal to have a good quality of life. The same could be said for any bear, any shark, any whale, any animal in general. If they're kept in a cage or in an enclosed area, they don't have freedom and they don't have a high quality of life. Regardless of how much we try to accommodate the area to their needs and try to help them, I don't think it's possible to replace wildlife. But then again, Mother Nature and wildlife is quite cruel anyway. The way the world works is that it is survival of the fittest. So of course, if we're speaking about the ocean, a shark is at any moment going to have the choice of killing smaller animals. And that is what they need to do to survive. You could say the same thing about tigers. They need to hunt and kill their prey to survive. So whenever you watch documentaries, like made by the BBC of Blue Planet, Planet Earth, and so on, the scenes that they record are mesmerizing and amazing. But sometimes I feel sorry for the little ones, for the smaller animals, because they can't do anything about it. This is just part of the circle of life, of the food chain. So, yes, I agree that zoos can be a little bit cruel, but Mother Nature is also cruel. And I think it is a nice family day out to go to a zoo with children, show them different animals. They have a great time. They make memories as well that they're going to cherish for a long time. So I'm a bit on the fence here. I believe that any kind of zoo should be more of a nature reserve, but I agree that it's quite an interesting plan for people or a family. But I do think they are quite cruel. So I'm not exactly showing you a 100% answer that is in favor or against, but that way you can draw your own conclusions about how I feel. So linked to that, on that note, number 6, are you into fishing or hunting? And, well, no. I'm not into nor fishing nor hunting. I would like to like fishing, but I think it's boring. You need to be so patient because you go to a river, to the beach, to a lake, you get your fishing rod, you get all of the different ingredients, materials, and stuff to be able to do it, and then you're just sitting around. You're just waiting to get that bite. So the majority of the time is really boring. Then I imagine that once you get a bite, it gets really exciting. There's a bite. And then you enter this little battle of trying to pull and get that fish out of the water and over to you, which I suppose is exciting. And if you enjoy being outside and surviving and fending for yourself, fishing could be cool. Because after that, you can then, well, you can cook it yourself. So that's quite a cool thing. And hunting, well, hunting, I don't really agree with in general. Because when you're hunting, mankind, human beings, always have such a huge advantage. Because you've got a gun. And if you've got a gun, of course you're going to be able to kill different animals and hunt them. So there are some reasons or motives for which hunting could be good if there is overpopulation. And if, of course, you're going to eat the meat after, then hunting can be in some ways necessary. But I'm not into it personally. I'm not a fan, really. Now, from there, let's continue and let's go over some other activities. And I am going to describe different things. But first, I'm going to pause because I can hear a lot of noise outside. And it seems like there is some kind of demonstration, some kind of strike in favor of Palestine. I can hear it. So it's a little bit distracting. And if anybody here is listening who is Palestinian, then I send lots of love to you, and I hope the situation gets better as quickly as possible. So fingers crossed and lots of love to you there. But I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. It's quietened down now because, of course, you know, when I'm recording these videos, I don't tend to pause, edit, or do anything. I'm kind of making it up as I go along. I'm saying everything off the top of my head. So sometimes, living in the city centre of Brussels, things happen and I hear noises and I get distracted. So I was trying to stay focused as much as possible, but I couldn't. I could hear people screaming and shouting, so I thought, all right, now's a good time to pause, and then we'll keep going in 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm back. And from there, let's do a quick game, and then we'll have a look at some idioms to finish off. Okay. Back to basics. What's the animal? I'm going to give you this short description, and you have to tell me the name of the animal. Ready? Let's go. This large animal lives in Australia. It is 3, 2, 1. A kangaroo. It's not a bird, but it can fly. 3, 2, 1. It's a bat, like Batman. This animal is long and has no legs. Of course, it is a snake. This fish has lots of big teeth. Dum, dum, dum. It is a shark. Next, it says meow, meow. Of course, it is a cat. It's the biggest animal alive today. It is a whale, a blue whale, for example. It lives in Africa and has a long neck. Of course, it is a giraffe. A giraffe. This bird is active at night. It is an owl. An owl. It's very big with a long nose. 2, 1. It is an elephant. This bird lives near the South Pole. It is a penguin. It's big and it lives in the desert. It is a camel. This insect can make honey. Yummy, hummy. It is a bee. Small and green, it lives in water. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. It is a frog. It looks like a horse. It's black and white. It is a zebra. A zebra. It lives in trees. It likes bananas. It is a monkey. And lastly, ice cream is made from its milk. Of course, it is a cow. It is a cow. Good. That was a bit basic, a bit easy. So let's finish off with some expressions. Yes, some expressions, some idioms, and I'm going to share my screen again and show you 10 different animal idioms. But before I do so, have a quick think. Are you familiar with any idioms related to animals? Because there are quite a lot. There is a considerable amount. Not sure? Let me show you. Let me open your eyes to it. So here we have, on the left-hand side, 10 different expressions or words or phrases related to animals, and on the right you have their synonym or short definition. So let's start with ants in your pants. What does it mean if you have ants in your pants? Well, if I have ants in my pants, it means that I can't stop. I've got ants in my pants. So it's a way of saying to be restless. For example, my little nephew is only 2 years old, but he's always getting up, sitting down, running around, doing so many different things. He's got ants in his pants. Number 2 is until the cows come home. Until the cows come home. This is a way of saying, what? Any ideas? For example, I could eat ice cream until the cows come home. So if you say until the cows come home, you mean for a very long time. I could do that for ages. I could do it until the cows come home. Next, we have the rat race. Nowadays, in the world that we live in, there is a constant rat race. Even though I'm a teacher and I work from home, I still know that there is a rat race. I live in the rat race. It is a way of saying the busy 21st century life. Basically, it's a way of talking about capitalism. The rat race is where all of us are trying to compete, work as much as possible, produce as much as possible, for nothing. We're just little insignificant rats. We're not going to change anything in the world. Now, number 4. This one, I'm sure you know, 100%. It is kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Often when I go to the gym, I also listen to podcasts in different languages. So I kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Yes, it is to do 2 good or productive things at once. 2 good or productive things at the same time. Number 5. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue? What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? So this is used as a question when somebody is being very, very quiet. They're not saying anything. Therefore, it is said to someone who is shy or quiet. If there is an uncomfortable silence, or you're waiting for someone to respond to a question that you might have asked them, you can say, hey, what's up? Cat got your tongue? The number 6 is an adjective. It is fishy. And we often say that something smells fishy. That's strange. I don't know what's going on there, but it seems a little bit fishy. Fishy. If something is fishy, it is suspicious, strange. You can smell that something is not right. I don't know what goes on in that building next to me, but it seems a bit fishy. Number 7. Whoa. Hang on. Hold on. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. If somebody tells you to hold your horses, they're saying, wait, hang on, hold on, be patient, hold your horses. Now, number 8, the lion's share. Now, I have a bigger appetite than my fiance, way bigger. So if, for example, I cook a meal and I make a big portion, I know that I'm going to have the lion's share of the food. In other words, I'm going to have the majority. I'm going to have the biggest percentage, the lion's share. And on that note, a phrasal verb. At the weekend, or even in the evening, maybe this evening, I'm going to pig out. Yes, I'm going to pig out because today for lunch, all I've had is carrots and hummus. That's not enough for a big guy like me. So this evening, maybe I'll make some fajitas and I'll have like 4 or 5 and I will pig out. I will eat a lot. I'll eat like a pig. So that means that last but not least is take the bull by the horns. If you take the bull by the horns, you take control of a situation. You face a situation or a challenge bravely. I know you might not be prepared for this, but you need to take the bull by the horns. Take control of the situation. So there we have it. Those are 10 different expressions, idioms, phrasal verbs even, of different animals. Of course, that's not all of them. There are many other phrasal verbs, expressions, and idioms that are animal-based. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just scratching the surface. But that's it. I think that'll do for today. I've been ranting and rambling for a long time. Apologies for the slight distraction, but I guess it is what it is. If I want to change and stop having these distractions, I need to go and move somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I need to go live in the countryside, where it's always quiet, peaceful, relaxing. You can hear a pin drop because it's so silent. Or maybe you can just hear the birds chirping. Or you can hear cats meowing. Or maybe even dogs barking. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, leave a like, follow for more, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, and see you later. Bye!